Welcome to 1 Million Cups, our special presentation. I don't see Michael Keith here, who would normally.
He emailed me. He's opening back up and he doesn't have the staff. And so he has to be on the floor and serving coffee.
All right. Well, for anyone who is in Michigan, the Office Coffee Shop is opened and it's in Royal Oak on Lafayette and 4th Street. And our sponsor, our coffee sponsor for 1 Million Cups is the Office Coffee Shop. And if you just mention 1 Million Cups, you'll get a free coffee. So go visit them there in Royal Oak or pre-order and have it dropped off to you at curbside. Usually Michael Keith is here and he also has a couple businesses and we love it when he participates because he really has great insightful questions. All right, so I'm just going to do like a little bit of the preamble before we get into your presentation, Jason. My name is Melissa Wilson and I am your MC today, and Doug Stone and I co-lead the 1 Million Cups committee, but we are all kind of one group doing a volunteer job to promote entrepreneurship in Southeast Michigan. So Doug Stone is hosting the Zoom. We are an organization that falls under the Kaufman Group. So we are a nonprofit organization and our chapter is the Southeast Michigan chapter. Currently we're called 1 Million Cups Oakland County. So that's how you can find us on the web. And we also have a YouTube page and a Facebook page. And that's where you'll be able to find all of our information. So 1 Million Cups meets weekly on Wednesday mornings around the United States. There's over 160 chapters. It's just a 1-hour meeting. The format is that 2 presenters get to present their business for 6 minutes. And then there's 20 minutes of Q&A from us, the audience. And that Q&A is really to help support the business owner who is presenting for us. And the presentation is not a pitch necessarily. It is not a pitch to get a sale or get an investor. It's just to show what we're trying to do with our business right now and ask our community if there's any resources or support that we're looking for, if we can help support with that. So generally it's 2 6-minute presentations from people who have applied through our website, 1 Million Cups Oakland County. And the application is very simple. It's just 4 questions, 4 basic questions, and it's just to help us vet you to get in. So the benefit to presenting with 1 Million Cups, one of the things that we think is a big highlight is that you get an hour or so of free business coaching from a business coach. And we have 2 with our group, which is unusual for 1 Million Cups chapters. Joe, who is not present today, is one of our coaches. He mainly he helps support Detroit Tech Town. And then today we are having Jason Verbrugge. Sorry, Jason, I'm chopping it up. No matter what way, Jason Verbrugge. And
more memorable that way, Melissa.
Jason is has been our coach since we opened up this chapter in 2017. So Jason has been with us for 3.5 years now, coaching anybody who needs the support and service and wants it, and who should always take it. And he has launched his 3rd business this summer during the pandemic. And so today is a special presentation, not on the 2nd Wednesday, but on the 1st Wednesday of the month for 1 Million Cups. And so Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you. But just before I do that, I want to let anyone know who is here. You can interrupt Jason at any time to ask questions. You also can type in the chat a question and either Doug or I will slow Jason down to ask that particular question. And while he's presenting, feel free to jot down anything you want to ask at the end, if that's how you like to do it. And again, you can use the chat or you can just ask live by unmuting yourself. So on that note, Jason, if you'd like to go ahead and start your presentation for Craze, we're all ears.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. So yeah, it's been fun. I really do enjoy interacting with all of the folks who want to start an entrepreneurial venture, and it's always fun coaching. I just did one with Ali yesterday, and great concept for the docking station to put a phone in for students and maybe reduce some of the risk for some of the folks who can't afford a computer in their household. So just, unique ideas that I get to see, but then being able to coach them is, it feels good from my end, but I try to share my experience because whenever I've built businesses, especially some of the ones that I've done at an early age, it's always good to have someone who has the experience, who can kind of help guide you in an avenue that's going to help your business. And this presentation will be looking at how I started Craze, and we'll talk about the product, but we'll also talk a little bit more about the business and the backbone and how everything gets started and how you should lay everything out and how you should grow. So these are all important aspects of a business, and I think it's important to discuss these long term. So I'll jump into the presentation here. This is my family. We've got my daughter and her boyfriend on the left side of the picture, my son Jack, my stepdaughter Cass, and my wife Christy. And we have a focus here of working hard but playing even harder. And the kids will razz me all the time that I'm always on my phone, always on my computer, working or responding to a work email. But at the same time, we'll go do trips, or we'll go do hikes, or we'll go on the boat and wake surf and water ski. So I think it's a good balance of both working hard and playing hard, which I think is important in life. So just a little bit of background. I've been fortunate enough to have some really cool roles in large organizations. I started my healthcare career with Eli Lilly back 24 years ago. I've held national director roles with Allergan, with Ipsen, with 3M. And at the same time, I've either gone and started a business and or done a business in between some roles. And it's really been fun. I think I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit in me. I definitely enjoy working for a company, but at the same time, I've always got that bug to brainstorm on a new idea, to think about what's next, to think about what can our family start. So I've got a couple of them highlighted down here at the bottom, but DPro Healthcare. I started this digital firm back, I think over 12 years ago now. We've done several million in total revenues. We're a firm that we created a niche set of products that are for training within the healthcare space. So we really focused a lot on biotech, med device, the hospital regulatory training. And I found a niche that was able to be filled by our products that we created. And it was nice because it brought in the revenue, but it was also nice because people were looking for a product in that space, and we were able to provide that. Then about 4 years ago, I really wanted to kind of reinvest a little bit of the profits from DPro and some of my consulting work. And I wanted to create a family business. So we were looking at, or we were watching American Ninja Warrior one night, and I just happened to see the popularity of American Ninja Warrior and how many people were just going gaga over this. So I happened to search indoor training facilities in the Metro Detroit area, and there was really only one over in Commerce at the time. And I looked at the family and I said, we're going to start an obstacle training facility. And we did. And we ran this facility for just over 3 years before we sold it in November 2019. And we had our lease coming up. So we looked at either renewing a lease in a different location or selling it. And the sale of it actually came out exactly the way I wanted it to. So we ended up selling. And I will say it was somewhat fortuitous because we actually happened to sell right before the pandemic 6 months later. Now, the new owners, I will say, they built out a new location, and they got to have a slight pause for a couple months after they open, but they are doing very well. In fact, I get their emails weekly now, seeing how well they're doing. But
Jason,
I've always had this interest.
For one second. You're doing what you just explained, like really clearly, is as an entrepreneur, you watch for your niche, you watch for your opportunity, and you also watch for your exit plan.
Yes.
is really
Yeah,
important.
yeah, I've got that listed a couple times in the presentation.
Oh, good.
You know, sometimes being an entrepreneur, you don't want to exit. Maybe you want to build a company that you can run for the rest of your life, and you want to retire. And that is somewhat the way I've built Craze here. But I also have an exit strategy built into this too. And I think it's important to say, okay, do I want to have an exit strategy, or do I need one? I think you've always got to have that in the top of your mind when you're putting your business together. So I will discuss that a little bit later as well. But yeah, great point, Melissa.
Thank you.
I do want to touch on the fact that it's not always been, roses and sunshine, right? So I've had several failures in my life as an entrepreneur, and I will say that some of these I'm going to share with you briefly are kind of humorous because they fall in line with other large companies that have done well. We just didn't launch at the right time or exactly at the right with the right partners or the right investors. So the top left is a sport pack that I developed when I was 22 years old, and I'd been doing a lot of skiing, and we were videotaping with the old Sony, handheld video cameras. And I said, there's got to be a better way to record our action and our adventures. So I built this little neoprene bag, and I actually had, at 22 years old, I was working with a facility in Hong Kong, having them make prototypes and sending me prototypes. And I put like a few $1,000s, which was all I could scrape together at the time, into to this sport bag and have them make 3,500 units for me. And I had to wait like 2.5 months to get them through customs, and it was a whole ordeal with the delay of that. And then on top of that, I get these 3,500 units, and I start reaching out to some of the local outdoor companies, and no one would buy a product from me because I only had one product, and I was a small source. I wasn't a large conglomerate that was offering them 10 different products. So I only sold maybe 100 of these units to friends and family and some other affiliates. And then I ended up donating a lot to Special Olympics because they could wear them in their wheelchair and put things in them. So I ended up having at least a little bit of a tax write-off at 23, 24 years old, going through this major failure where I put, maybe $4,800 into it, which is all I could scrape together at the time. And it just didn't work out. But the funny aspect is that a year later, GoPro launched, and that was a similar concept of having the small camera. Now, I didn't incorporate the camera, I just created the bag, but they started with the small camera and then the case that mounted on their chest after that. So interesting to see the dichotomy between my product and GoPro's. They took a little bit different spin, and they were successful and mine was not. Now, on the flip side, the bottom left is Swish Films. We actually launched this between 2001 and 2004, and you'll see my business plan. This was a whole booklet strategy that we would take in hardbound to investor meetings back before computers were really easily presentable, and we would take these to our investor meetings. We would pitch on, using small video clips on our site from college students, from kids who just want to take small videos. And we were trying to pitch investors, and they said, well, how are you going to make money? And we said, we're going to build up our user base and then advertise on the site. And they said, that's not a good business plan. It's not going to work. And literally during our investor pitches for that year, YouTube was sold for $480 million. So it was almost the exact same platform that we had created in Swish Films. And we had probably 6 or 7 different colleges using our platform, and they were submitting their documentary films for the film and art students. So we just quite didn't get the exact same investor network that YouTube did, but almost the exact same platform. And we actually had no idea that YouTube existed prior to them selling during the same year. So interesting. And I've had a couple other, the Pharma Connect is a healthcare one that I started here, but you're going to have failures in life. And I think the cool thing about the failure is that you can get past it and reflect back on it and say, what did I learn? Were there any key takeaways? And how can I move forward to my next venture? So it's not all roses. You're going to have some failures, but take them as part of a challenge in life and just roll with it, because it will happen.
Yeah, that's good advice. I just want to mention to the group briefly, Jason, that anyone that's here today, if you are an entrepreneur or this is your first meeting, if you could just respond in the chat. And I hope you're getting inspired by Jason, because he's definitely giving you some gems here. It's always a learning experience when you fail. So it's just the building blocks to get to where you are now.
Indeed. So I'll jump in. So now that I built a little bit of background, I'll go through some of these slides a little quicker. So what we've built here is a company that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's a liqueur business. I want to have something where, going into my retirement, I can travel around with my wife and we can travel in our RV and sell this to any bar, restaurant, liquor store nationwide. So that was kind of the goal. And when we first started working with this, we worked on a lemon wine, and I was having one of my old friends from college help me with some of the tasting, and it just wasn't coming out right. And he said, why don't we use my family limoncello recipe? And I said, all right, that sounds good. But if we're going to do a limoncello, then we're going to do a lime and an orange as well. And he said, oh, I'm not sure about that. And with our testings and pilot flavors with our friends and family, the lime and the orange came out to be just unbelievably fantastic. So what we've launched here, and our mission is to launch the first unique limoncello to consumers. There have been a couple lime liqueurs over the years, but nothing like ours that's half the sugar content. But we're really kind of reinvigorating the use of cellos in the US, because in Asia and in Europe, people sip aperitifs and sip cellos on a regular basis almost daily before and after dinner. In the US, no one does that. So what we're trying to really do is not only launch the unique limoncello and a unique orange, but also reinvigorate the use of cellos, because they're very flavorful liqueurs to elevate cocktails to another level. So what we did is we took the 50-year-old family recipe and we put a little American spunk to it, and we made a new brand that's very cool. If you see our bottle, like I showed you, it's got a very vibrant label. It's not just the boring picture of Italy or a boring picture of a lemon. So we've tried to make a very cool brand, and we're really building that cool factor in our social media. But we're also making something that's a little bit healthier version of a liqueur. A lot of liqueurs, if you guys have had a blue curacao or a triple sec or a limoncello, a lot of them are very sugary and very syrupy. And what we've done with our product is make it much more natural. We do no coloring, no preservatives, no additives. We use organic and gluten-free ingredients. So this color here is what you're seeing is directly a color from our lime peels that are infusing in our alcohol. So we've really tried to make a healthier spin of the liqueur that we can use to enhance cocktails, really is what the main mission is. But I will say, before one batch of this product was even built or made, there was about 14 months of backbone building for this company, because the liquor business, like many other businesses within healthcare or any other type of regulated business, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So we had to start off with federal permits, and this is just an example of our federal permit. This literally took about 2.5 months to submit all the different steps of the federal permit. There's background checks on the owners. Like if you've had any felony at all, you cannot own a liquor company, and then based on the misdemeanor, they're a little bit more lenient, but just a crazy amount of work that goes through the backbone of just the federal side. And then we started with a few states. We got our state license in Michigan. Again, a lot of hoops to jump through, and there's no really good guidebook as to here, you need to do step 1 through 10 to set up your state license for a liquor company. So a lot of being an entrepreneur is just digging in and asking questions and calling and finding out what steps you need to do next. And we had to do that. And you have to do that in many entrepreneurial ventures. So I think it takes that tenacity day in and day out to really build a business and keep it going and get to the next level. So we did start with Michigan. We got our Illinois license, and then we got a special order license in North Carolina. The approval of the labels, the approval of the formula, these were all additional aspects. So after the permits and licenses were done, then you had to submit labels and formulas. And both of those, I think we had to submit 2 iterations of our formula to get that approved. And then we had to submit actually 4 iterations of our label to get a final approval on the federal label. Once the label's done, then these federally approved labels can be used throughout all the states. But this is, again, just another set of hoops to jump through before you're even in production of your product. And I think many companies have to do that. So it's not just liquor. There's many healthcare regulations that are out there. So this is definitely something normal. I'll talk for a second about building the right team. So I talked about my friend Dominic that I had taste, and he joined the business, and we've built something really great here. But he adds a whole cool flair to my business expertise. So he was also a entrepreneur out of the get-go. He launched a landscape company in his late teens, and he ran that through all the time that I knew him in college and after, and ended up having several hundred clients long term. So he's got that kind of entrepreneurial spirit as well. And his background being from Frosinone in Italy and having the recipe and the family attributes, I think he was a great part of building up this business. My wife, Christy, she has worked for Chrysler and built big brands with launching SRT for Chrysler, but she also spent 7 years at a shopper marketing agency. So unbeknownst to me, before I even had the idea to start Craze, she had always kind of joked about, oh, this is kind of a boring business doing shopper marketing. But then knowing later that we would launch Craze, and she had all this expertise on how to position things, how to do our shelf talker that we created, and how to have better shelf experience from the consumer side. Those all played a big part in the initial launch of our business. So it's really good to build the right team. I talked earlier about being able to network and get expertise from other people. That can be from outside sources, from a big company. It can be from your board of directors, but from a small company, you want to network as much as possible. Like Ali, on my call with him yesterday doing his coaching, he just said, hey, do you have time for me to ask you a few more questions? Because I really want to pick your brain on this. That's exactly what an entrepreneur should do. Is anytime you've got the chance to talk about your company, to reflect on getting someone else's ideas, maybe something that's going to go right, maybe something that's going to go wrong, but you're getting other people's input. And that's kind of the old Japanese Kaizen theory, where you're bringing all the brains in together to brainstorm on one idea. Being the entrepreneur, you don't have all the answers. So share your business idea with as many people as you can and get their thoughts and their experiences.
So part of that too, Jason, is surrounding yourself with the right mindset, right? So not only your wife, but your business partner, and I'm sure many other people in your life have that entrepreneur mindset, and it just sort of evolves that way. And if you're a new entrepreneur, you are an existing entrepreneur, some of those people who might be just, brain drains versus somebody who might say, wait, that one thing you said in that one chat we had, leads me to tell you about this one person, right? Surround yourself by the right people to help you be productive every day, because we're obsessed with our businesses, right? So
Yeah.
we want those people to accept you the way you are.
Yeah, the obsession is Troomless. I mean, it's funny because my wife, my family, they do razz me all the time because I'm constantly talking about our businesses, and primarily this right now. But I will say, you never know who you're speaking to at the time who says, you know what, I know a guy, or I know this person, or I know this company who could help you out. And literally throughout my 20 years of playing with entrepreneurial businesses, that happens all the time. So yes, I get razzed constantly for always talking about the business, but then at the same time, it ends up paying off in a lot of different cases, because you never know who you're going to meet that's going to take your business to the next level. So it is that obsession that and a lot of company leaders have that obsession. Steve Jobs, obsessed about Apple, right? Amazon, Bezos is obsessed with that company. So there are a lot of leaders out there that have that true obsession, and sometimes they take it too far where they don't have any other life at all. I think there's a chance to have a good balance, still being an entrepreneur.
You mentioned earlier, you just want to be conscientious of your family and like respect what they're doing and how you're doing it, and be able to reward yourself and them by going on trips or taking a break, or, if you're going to put 9 or 10 or 12 hours into your business one day, then you could give them an hour or two of your quality time. And that helps you build that balance.
And I think a lot of it, some entrepreneurial leaders don't necessarily like to involve their family or discuss business at all. I will say that my son's in a marketing class right now, and he says, Dad, I know every single thing that they're talking about because of the businesses that we've launched. And I bring them in. Like, our kids have been part of Grit when we had that whole thing. So not only were they trainers in our facility, but we talked about them with marketing ideas, and we talked about them with the profit and loss and the income statement, and we went through everything with them. So they were part of every aspect of the business, and they've been part of this business. Obviously, I don't have them drinking liquor, but they've been part of the discussion points of the business in general. And I think that's important, because now they're part of it. I'm not excluding the family. I'm sharing, and I'm talking about it with them, and they feel very included in it. So I think that's great.
Yeah, that is fabulous.
So this is our lineup. Like I said, we've got the limoncello. We've got an orange. So there's only 4 manufacturers of orange in the world, and we're one of them. But again, ours is less sugar, less glycemic index. And then we've got the infamous limoncello. So this is the limoncellos are very popular out there, but you'll see the limoncello that's here. It's not that super vibrant sunshine orange or yellow, because it doesn't have yellow number 5 in it like a lot of the other limoncellos do. So we try to make this healthier. When you use those yellow number 5s or the orange colorings, they're very bad for your body. So I'm at least trying to, liquor in general is not good for your body. It's not good for your liver, but people do enjoy liquor. If we're going to make something, I want to try to make a little bit healthier version of it for people, so you're not getting all the coloring and additives and preservatives. So these are very fresh. We essentially take fruit peels, infuse them in alcohol, and then after that we add in our blend of sugar and sugar alcohol, and we finalize our recipes. So this is the lineup for right now. We do have some tests for grapefruit cello as a seasonal launch for potentially spring and summer, and then a pomegranate potential launch for the fall and winter that my partner just concocted, and it's coming out really nice. So we're continuously trying to innovate and say what's next, but at the same time, we don't want to rush anything. We want to make sure that what we're doing currently is working and going smoothly.
So I know I'm the only one interrupting, but I'm going to ask you a question about that specifically.
Yeah.
So grapefruit, super enticing, and pomegranate, like the trendy trend, like everybody's always talking about pomegranate. So as an entrepreneur, paying attention to marketing like you do, did you look at the market and say, what additional things can we do? Or did you just get this sparked idea of grapefruit and pomegranate. Those could be our like, specialties that we put out there. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we do try to follow the trends, and again, the big trend that we're following over the last few years is craft cocktails. So if you've noticed that I obviously I'm hitting cocktails extremely hard in my discussion, but we are really elevating that trend of craft cocktails. So that started really 2 or 3 years ago, where all these restaurants started coming out with these unique cocktail recipes that you've never even heard of. They've got their own names for cocktails now. It used to be just your old fashioned, your vodka tonic, your normal cocktails. Now everyone's got a whole host of different cocktails. So we're following that big trend. But my wife and I were talking about grapefruit. Dominic was talking about pomegranate with his friends and family. So we both, tried to innovate. And then when we come up with an idea, we try to share that amongst the whole team. So we have weekly calls. Dominic and I obviously may have more than a weekly call. We may jump on the phone this hour or next hour, but we have weekly calls with the whole team. Christy and I obviously talk all the time because we're in the same household, and with the pandemic, it's easy just to go in each other's offices. But there's a lot to go into talking about your idea. You might think your idea is just fantastic, and then you share it with 2 or 3 people and they're like, no, you should do this or you should do that. Or some people might say, no, it's a great idea. I will say, Bezos, when he was launching the bookstore online, everyone was totally dogged him on it and they thought it was a horrible idea. He had to really bring in family members to launch it, and he didn't get a lot of vast support. It wasn't no one thought it was a great idea, but it ended up turning into something, pivoting out of just books, obviously, turn into something huge. But just because you have an idea doesn't mean you should just run with it. It's always a good idea to talk about it with other people, kind of share your idea, get some feedback on it. Maybe you still want to launch it, but at least you've got that feedback so you can tweak something.
Yeah. So part of the benefit of that is listening to what people actually want. Like Bezos said, I want to put these books out and get them out faster than anything else can get them out. And
Yep.
people started saying, well, what else can I get? If I got my books so fast, what else can you do? And he started adding products to his product line.
Yep.
Just like what you're saying, you might have come up with doing like a kiwi flavor and you put it out to your group and everyone was like, yeah, we typically drink grapefruit juice. So if you could do a grapefruit one, that would be much more smooth. So you let your audience, as an entrepreneur, you let your audience kind of tell you what they really want. And then you have to decide, do I want to go with my market or do I want to go with what my brilliant idea was? But stick with your version because that's what you're going to be passionate about.
Yeah, you have to be passionate about it. If it gets watered down too much and you're not passionate about it, it's not going to work. So
that's right.
I'll blast through this one here. Basically, the couple aspects that I want to point out is that we ended up partnering with Motor City Gas Distillery in Royal Oak for our production, bottling, and labeling. And then we partnered with Great Lakes Wine and Spirits for our distribution in Michigan. These 2 aspects alone probably took 6 months worth of meetings and sharing of contract and negotiating. And none of these things are just like, oh, sign that contract and partner with them. It's not that easy. So I knew that going into the liquor business, but at the same time, I kind of, my sharing with everyone else is doing these things can take a long time. And, I sat behind my computer or on a phone call for hours filling out applications and taking things to the next step. And it does take a lot of time. So be prepared for that. I'll play a quick video here from Channel 7. And this is kind of how we kicked off our launch. So play this for you.
I'm going to turn the volume up, maybe, Jace.
Yeah, this one is.
She sold out the first batch in one day, which was phenomenal.
Jason Verbrugge launched Craze Liquor less than 2 months ago, but when I first met him,
So I wanted to share that because it's, getting the exposure for your business early on is crucial. And as soon as we went through our initial test batch, we then started reaching out to the media and we wanted to get some kind of big launch there. And that did help. So within our launch of Michigan, we sold out our first small batch in literally one day. So we had liquor stores and restaurants ready to buy as soon as our small batch hit the market and inventory with Great Lakes, and sold out in one day. Then we had our first large batch out another month and a half later. That was just over 1,000 bottles, and that sold out in 2 months. So in combination with getting that ready to launch, we were already proactively reaching out to media and trying to get some exposure early on to really kickstart the launch of everything. So our distribution strategy has been get it on shelves and get it, in a nice focal point on a shelf whenever we can. You'll notice that we've got these shelf talkers that we put in front of our bottles. Obviously, you see ours are all sold out, and the others are still on the shelf. So I think we've done a fantastic job selling out a product in the last 3 months since our launch. We do try to continuously put in different aspects, either at shelf or around the shelf. We've got signs out. I'll share an iPad promo that we came up with later. But our initial goal was to start with the top 25 bars and restaurants, and then the pandemic hit. So then restaurants were shutting down. So then we had to kind of reverse. Our next goal was to, after the restaurants, then hit liquor stores and maybe grocery stores later. We had to kind of pivot and go to the liquor stores first, and we sold out all of our product primarily at the liquor store level. So we've had to kind of pivot and change, but I think our unique label and the fact that we've got shelving talkers and getting our brand that has a more fun and colorful label out on the shelf and getting liquor store owners to talk about it, that's really been the key throughout our distribution and our shelving and our initial launch.
We have a question in the chat, Jason.
Yeah.
Chris Van Wyck wants to know if you could speak to scaling the business. Like, it's a big jump to go from your small batch to that large batch, producing 1,000 bottles. If you could speak to that for a second.
Yeah, I've got a one slide on scaling. So Chris, I'll pause that till my scaling question, because that is
Sounds good.
very important business aspect that you need to consider. I will say this for now, in our strategy meetings every week, we do talk about what's next and what do we need to prepare for what's next. So that is part of the expansion of it. It's part of, whether we're getting in a few liquor stores or a few Krogers, right? That's a huge difference. So we do talk about that on a weekly basis. So our 30, 60, 90 plan, this is kind of part of expansion. So what do you want to do in the initial launch from 0 to 30? What do you want to do at 60, 90, 120? You've got to have that plan, and you've got to have planned out for either your product or your service ramp up. If you're a service like Steven Scott, he's primarily offering a service to clients. Am I able to scale? Am I so booked out over the next 2 months that I can't take on any more clients? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself. Or if you've got a product like this, do we have enough inventory to go to we're in liquor stores right now. If we want to go to a Nino Salvaggio, which we in and we sold out in already, do we want to go there yet, or do we have enough inventory to do that? So these are questions that you've got to keep kind of pinging yourself on to make sure that you're not scaling too fast and over promising. I will say, I think all of us have seen entrepreneurial examples, whether it's through 1 Million Cups or whether it's been on Shark Tank or what have you, where they start spewing off, I'm going to go in this direction, I'm going to go in this direction, I'm going to go in this direction. And I've heard Cubans say, whoa, wait a second, you're not focused, I'm out. Like it's notorious for entrepreneurs to just start rambling and say, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And you can't. Like, it's impossible to launch everything all at once. So focus in on a main target, get your company launched, and then maybe start branching out. And Chris, to your question, that's part of the expansion, but you've got to kind of reel yourself in and look at expectations as to how fast and how efficiently you can launch your business.
And you mentioned earlier the niche, right? You found your niche in some earlier businesses. You just have to keep your eye open for the niche and keep that simple, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, I think, you know, you can have a niche that may span into 20 different areas, but let's look at one area at a time, launch it there, get some success with it, get traction going. So it's kind of a regular process, then maybe go into your next niche, because there may be multiple niches that you're hitting with one product, but launch in one area first and do it right. And don't be scattered, because as soon as people get scattered, the business crumbles. We've seen it a lot.
I think because your investors or the people you're selling to, they want to know, what are you the expert at? What are you selling yourself as the expert at? And can I trust your advice, and can I trust your product? So that's what you're building every single time you're meeting those new people, no matter whether they're a distributor or a bar owner or just a friend. I'm the expert at this because of this. And you keep it, I'm going to say this not in a derogatory manner, but fourth grade level. You don't want to blow someone's mind with all that you know with your multiple hats as an entrepreneur. You want to have them enjoy what you're doing and sell what you have.
That's exactly right. So I won't, just in respect of time, I'm not going to jump into everything. We've got grocery store chains as a next level, but to speak to this, we're pausing this right now until we make sure that all of our production and all of our inventory capabilities are meeting all the other liquor store and restaurant needs first, and then we'll go to the larger chain grocery stores. We talked about really plunging into the craft cocktails, and we did utilize one of our restaurant's top mixologists to really start testing out some of our early cocktails. So Link was able to really kind of tweak some of our cocktails. He added a cool younger flair to what we were thinking as far as some of our cocktails. We ended up coming out with a cocktail bartender booklet, really cool little 4x5-inch glossy color booklet that we can give to a bartender. They can put it right next to the register, and they've got 10 recipes for craze right there in their hand. So nice, easy collateral asset that we created that's been pretty highly used so far, even on the liquor store side, for them to just keep and talk about our product, which is great. Here's some of our craft cocktails. We've got a whole host of these, 25 different cocktails on our website. I'll share with you some of our Craze Signature Cocktail Series videos that we create on how to make cocktails. So we try to have fun on social media and how to make some of these. I won't play this whole thing, but this is just a sample of
Hello, and welcome to the
us
Craze
standing behind a
Cello
video
Signature
and
Cocktail
talking about
Series.
a cocktail.
We are very excited because we've been working on this endeavor now for 20 months. It actually started with an Italian recipe for cello.
And I'm not going to play this whole thing.
Yeah, you got time. You got time.
No, I'm not going to play it. This one's a little bit longer because I talked about the business, which I've already been doing. So I won't.
How can we watch that video?
So any of our Facebook and Instagram feeds have our videos, have all of our pictures on some of our cocktails. So we really try to have fun with this. So in our video series, folks, while they're sitting at home bored, they can follow along and make cocktails right in their own house and their own kitchen. So that's why we started the Craze Signature Cocktail Series. We've got probably a half dozen of these out there. You know, I've shot some at my tiki bar at the lake house. So we're trying to have fun with this brand and really have fun with the cocktails. So I'll talk for a second about all the work that Christy's done, because she's really put a lot of thought behind the backbone marketing and advertising, and where we need to launch. So this is kind of a whole journey map from where we're thinking, what we're doing, our connections, what the consumers are thinking, who they're connected with. So this is kind of a journey map. I won't bother you with going into any details, but this was very thoroughly thought out. Whenever I do a coaching session, I will say probably the biggest aspect, and I think some of you guys have heard me say this before, is you're missing more promotional slides. You're talking a lot about your product. You're not talking about how you're going to promote it. How are you going to get this out into the world? You need to talk about that probably more than the product, because people come up with great products or ideas and they never come up with how they're going to get it out to the market. And I think that's a big miss. So we talk about the whole consumer experience map, from the discovery and awareness and getting the Craze name out there and the brand of our ginger, our lady on the label. So we're putting meaning to little aspects of the brand itself, the research and where people might search us, the purchase, whether it's on premise or off premise, where they're going to purchase our product, and then getting reviews and having friends or consumers telling their friends about our product. That's where you want to get to. So when Tito's first started becoming popular, people would say, "Oh, you're ordering Grey Goose. Have you tried Tito's yet?" And I heard that quite often when Tito's was in their, they've already launched, but they were in their major growth period of the company. And you heard that a lot. Have you tried Tito's yet? I mean, you heard that quite often. I think that's the best level that you can get to, where people are starting to talk about your product now. And then all the media tactics, and we've outlined these for the company, where we're going to get different buzzes from within media, whether it's the Channel 7 and the Channel 2 interviews, or whether it's social media, or whether it's a mixologist partnership. These are all different tactics that we've outlined for the company. Production and sales, I'll just briefly talk to this. So, we're able to make the 1,000 bottles in one batch. Our distiller is already able to double that batch. So we're already moving toward double batches here, starting in end of February. So our distiller, instead of doing one order of all the ingredients, they'll be doing double order of all the ingredients and making us roughly 2,200 bottles per batch. And then we've already talked to 2 other distilleries as backup distilleries to really look at like another double expansion, right? So Chris, to your point, we've already had these discussions. We already have a contract out to one of them. So we're in talks to go to another distillery in conjunction with our current distillery, because they can only handle a certain amount of volume for us. So we've already got that in the works to say, all right, when we hit a certain number of bottles sold per month, we need to open up the second distillery and get them producing for us as well. So I think that's a really part of our expansion. We talk about that almost every single week. I'll kind of talk about this upside down funnel, because Chris, this is to your point. So I kind of look at this as we're going down and we're growing the business. And I did this with Grit. I did this with DPRO. So, Craze is approximately in the initial production phase. So it's kind of at the peak of our launch of the business. When I talk about launch, I don't talk about all the work that went in prior. I talk about from the time the first service or the first product hits a client or a consumer. So I'm always strategizing about this, but we're in the initial phases. Yes, we've already talked about what we're going to do in the process growth. We've talked about expansion. We've talked about how we can change out some of our ingredients to, for example, from granular sugar to liquid cane sugar. We've talked about things that'll make the process efficient. I've already reached out to farms in Mexico and California to see if we can get peels directly instead of ordering the entire fruit. So little things like that for proper scaling. But I think you've got to be talking about it with your team on a regular basis to say, okay, we're hitting the goal levels that we want right now, but what's next and what do we need to prepare for in that scaling? So hopefully, Chris, that answers your question. Post-launch activities, we've already started cross-selling discussions. Purina Foods is one of them. We've talked about other distribution networks nationally. We've met with a couple of them already. We've got another interview coming up. So if you guys want to tune in to Channel 4 News, the morning of February 17th, we'll be on Channel 4. So we're always continuously moving the needle forward. We've got radio stations that we're starting to reach out to get maybe some just discussions going on air, maybe give them some sample bottles so they can talk about the product, future cocktails. So we're constantly looking at post-launch, what can we innovate? How can we take things to the next level? Christy's been really working on some of the innovation side with our Craze cocktail bar. So we'll be this summer, we'll be, and this is already ordered, but we'll be hiring this out to events, whether it's a local backyard wedding or a shower, but you can order the Craze kind of tiki bar for your backyard or your event. It comes with a bartender that we've already secured. You will be making at least one Craze cocktail and then utilizing that to get more exposure. So it not only uses our product, but it gives us exposure as well. We've talked about canned pre-made seltzers mixed with Craze cellos. So having a Craze martini in a can or potentially pre-mixed cocktails like you see at the bottom right. We actually created something over the pandemic here over the last couple months with the iPad stand. So you see this is about a 4-foot tall iPad stand that has a video on loop on an iPad, and it's doing something that no other liquor company has done at the liquor stores. So this sits either by the register or it sits by our product on shelf, and it talks about the Craze brand, which is just, we came up with it. It's a cool idea, but it's again, something unique and different than what everyone else is doing out there. Even the Tito's and the big brands aren't doing anything like this, which is kind of cool. I'll play this. This is just another little new launch video to kind of just share the new Craze and what it stands for, the fun, vibrant look of Craze.
We're promoting this one on our Facebook for 1 Million Cups. Really enticing.
So even that quick, few second video, it talks a lot to our brand in itself. So if you think about a normal cello, if any of you guys have had a limoncello before, no one's ever done any fun, brilliant, sizzling marketing like this for their cello brand. It just doesn't happen. The cellos are very simple sipping. We're taking this to another fun level, and that's the whole concept behind our brand. So I'll talk just for a second about the investment. So basically the business has been bootstrapped from the early 2018, 2019 ideation of it, all the way through the 14 months or so of building the backbone of it and paying for all the permits and licenses, those kind of things, by the founders. And then we did take on an investor in December at a $1.4 million valuation. So that actually just got signed off right before Christmas. And then we really don't require any further capital right now. We've already got revenues in the 5 digits coming in nicely. So we don't require any further capital, but like other good business people out there, and I like to reference Mark Cuban because he's very analytical with his business selection. Someone like him would come into a business, maybe not for the money all the time, but he's coming in for their vast business experience and maybe their network and their connection. So would I take another investment? Yes, with the right person. So if it's someone who either has liquor experience, maybe they've got large chain grocery experience, maybe they've launched other businesses before and they can add something to our team, I would take them on as an additional investor. And then we've already talked about the exit strategy. So I think some of you have seen Ryan Reynolds, who played Deadpool. He invested in the Aviator Gin, which sold for 400 and something million just recently to Diageo. That was simply a matter of that brand already being around for 4 or 5 years. They had enough presence to get Ryan Reynolds involved. Ryan Reynolds came in and bought a majority of the company. He used his celebrity status to network with Diageo. Within literally 12 months, they had the business sold to Diageo for that amount. So would that have happened without Ryan Reynolds? Probably not. But making those little connections, and like I said, you never know who you're going to connect with. There's many, and maybe it's not 400 million, but maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's 50 million, maybe it's 100 million. There's opportunity for us to build this big enough to get someone involved and then maybe sell it off, but we can still manage the business. Like a lot of those companies that sell their small distilleries off to a large conglomerate, they still run their distillery after that, but they just are now backed by a large conglomerate, which is fantastic. So you don't have to look at the exit strategy. I do like to look at it. When we had our lease coming up 6 months prior to that for Grit, I was already talking about, do we want to renew and go find another location, or do we want to sell the business? So we had those discussions well before we needed to. I think it's necessary as being an entrepreneur. So I'll kind of wrap up. We're kind of just coming in at an hour, so I think we'll leave maybe a few more minutes for any other questions. But in summary, we're launching one new brand. So we took a product that's never been in the market with the limoncello, and we're launching that. We're really boasting the orange and the lemon to kind of complete that trifecta. We're taking cocktails to another level, and we're doing it with something that is less sugar and a little bit healthier. But we're really trying to fill that void with something fun and lively that's been launched in the liquor space to the millennials, but also being cognizant of maybe folks my age that want something that's kind of a cool cocktail. I want to have fun on a Friday night, and I want a cool cocktail. Craze is the answer. So that's really what we're trying to fill as a company here. So we would ask for any of your support. So we're available in about 17 cities all throughout Michigan. These are just a couple locally with Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Troy. But if you go to our website, the location page has every shop on there that carries our product, and a lot of restaurants that are opening up will have our product, or they already do. Penny Black has our product. They just haven't really been open much. So now that they're open, they've got our product, and they'll make you a fantastic Craze cocktail. It also is available for ordering in about 30 states outside of Michigan. So that's fantastic. So feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Check out our website, crazecello.com. And thank you for listening to the presentation on Craze.
Wow, you really whipped that out at the end. So I'm going to ask you for a brief second, if you can unshare your screen so we can just do a picture for our, for our group. Yep. And then maybe you can bring that slide back up. And if anyone here can just stay a few more extra minutes. Doug, are you going to take the picture? You got us all gridded up? All right. So if you have a cup, remember this is 1 million cups, and it takes 1 million cups of coffee to make those connections. So hold your cup up. Perfect. Oh, you got it? You're going to take it again, Doug. That's perfect. Smart, pointing to the hat. Did you get it, Doug? Yeah. Okay. So if anyone can stick around, Jason, if you have 10 minutes or so more to answer questions, we would love you guys to stick around. We know we blocked this out for an hour, but this is a special presentation. We are normally very tight with 1 million cups as far as your time. But as you can hear, Jason has a ton to offer. So please unmute yourself if you have a question. We're happy to hear from you.
I just have more of a comment than a question. So first, thank you very much for doing this. I'm going to track down this recording because I talked to a lot of brand new business owners and entrepreneurs, and it's very clear how they don't appreciate what they're getting into. And so being able to point to this presentation and show them look, you can't just create a product and then magic will happen and you will be a billionaire tomorrow. Yeah. You've got to do a lot to make that happen. So thank you very much for spending the time today to put this together.
Just a note, I will put the recording up on our 1MC OC YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug.
And then maybe put that in the chat, Doug, if you can just put the link to that in the chat, or I can if you can't.
I can't at this moment.
All right, I'll do it.
I can. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was going to say to Stephen, to your point, there are times, and my wife will attest to this, I will wake up at 4 a.m. and have a thought, and I'll reach for my phone and put it in. So as an entrepreneur, it is tough. Sometimes you're always on for your business. Like I said, though, over the years, I do try to make sure that I'm still able to have my fun, but then I put in the hard work. And so my comment of work hard, play harder, that is a mantra for me, but it's also a mantra for our family. We do try to put in the time to work, but then we also play hard and play harder.
Yeah.
I had a quick question for Jason, if I may. So you talked a little bit about how you went from small grocery stores and going into those conglomerates like Myers and Kroger and whatnot. And I'm sure from the presentation yesterday, you understand the product a little bit. What factors did you measure and opportunity costs did you measure to say, okay, let me go ahead for the grocery store guys first, then go ahead. I'm sure the product may alter, may change once it goes to Myers and Kroger and all those guys. That's going to be costly, of course, switching out your product again. What were the factors and, in opportunity costs to say like, hey, I think grocery stores are going to be better for now versus going to the big guys and deciding then and there?
Yeah, so we did not go to the big grocery stores yet. We've got our applications in with Meijer and Kroger already, but that's just the initial application of our company name into their vendor system. We actually made the diligent decision not to go too big too fast. My philosophy was with business, and I think I mentioned this, is start with one avenue and do that really well so that it's going, it's rolling smoothly, there's no hiccups, then branch out to others. So we were going to launch with the restaurants, those closed, so we had to pivot during the pandemic, and that's fine. Companies pivot all the time. So we went the liquor store route. We've been doing really well in the liquor stores. We've done tastings, we've done the shelf talkers, we've done the promo stands, all the things that relate just to that avenue of the liquor stores. And we've done it really well. And they're reordering. And we've had liquor stores sell out of our product 3 and 4 times. That's what we want. That's going smoothly. Now we've started to open up to the larger markets like Nino's and Cantoro's. That's been our second. So we've already launched there. We've already sold out at Nino's 3 times as well. Next will be most likely a Myers, where it's a regional chain, but it's not a large national chain like Kroger. So we'll take the next step to go to Meijer. And then once that's going smooth and we've worked out any kinks with Meijer, then we'll go to Kroger.
Perfect.
Pam?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pam, do you want to ask your question about the process of manufacturing?
Sure. Very great. I really love your presentation, Jason, and your product looks fantastic. So
Thank you.
my question was, it didn't seem, from your background that you had a background necessarily in liquor.
Nope, not at all.
What? Yeah. So of course you draw from your entrepreneurial experience, but how did you get your arms around this? I mean, what process did you go through to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and these are all the things that I need to have in place in order to launch this product?
Yeah, it's a great question, Pamela, because they're especially being not only launching a new product, but being a new entrepreneur where you haven't done all those calls and all the research and all of that before with other companies. It's tough for your first time, for sure. Like you don't know what you don't know as a new entrepreneur. I always say that entrepreneurs easily get stuck. They hit a roadblock and they don't know if they can get past it. That's happened with Craze already several times. We got stuck with the label. We got stuck with the state license with Michigan. It happened, but I knew launching previous companies that I just needed to continue to pick up the phone and persevere and find out the avenue or the answer to get around that hurdle. Some entrepreneurs don't. Some actually hit that block and they stop. And that's why there's so many initially founded companies that are not around the next year. I mean, it's 75, 80% or more of companies that are started that are no longer in business the following year. And that's, pulling right from a lot of state statistics from those companies that are registered companies under the state of their residents. And then the next year, they're not around anymore.
And so I'm going to throw out a 1 Million Cups plug because
Yeah.
that's why you're passionate about 1 Million Cups, right? Is that what you were
It
just
is.
going to say?
It is. And as an entrepreneur, you can come to a place like 1 Million Cups, get coaching, practice your pitch, get other people's experience, and then maybe get around some of those hurdles. We've heard several pitches just in the last year where they actually bring up the hurdles that they were running into, right? So how can I get around this hurdle as a new entrepreneur? Allie, you mentioned a couple on our call yesterday. So there's hurdles that do come up. And yeah, I didn't have any experience I've been in healthcare primarily for 23 years. The grid obstacle training was one side business outside of healthcare. Craze Liquor is another. But I knew the foundational skills to launch a business. And I knew that there were going to be a lot of regulatory hurdles coming into this. But at the same time, I knew I just needed to persevere through it. Good question, though.
Yeah. And so that brings me also to 1 Million Cups. So this platform was developed by the Kauffman Foundation that funds tons and tons of new entrepreneur businesses. But they found that a lot of people, like Jason was saying, would hit that roadblock or maybe hit 5 roadblocks in a row and not be able to persevere. So presenting at 1 Million Cups, if you're 3 years or younger, or you're just coming out of the idea stage, it is going to be really helpful to not only your confidence, but we're going to be able to give you, by you presenting with us, a slideshow that'll help you present to other people. And then Jason or Joe are really great coaches, and they will make time in their busy lives to try to help you out, if you go through 1 Million Cups. So if you're considering that, or if you're here and you're 3 years or younger, just apply. We are looking for people to present every week. We're launching up to that. And so we would love to have you be part of our pipeline. We really want to be helpful and provide a business community that will support you in growing your business.
And I will say too, just because you may have presented with us last year, you may want to present again this year. You may want to kind of reinvigorate your pitch again and practice it. You may have changed or pivoted due to COVID or some other reasons, some other business changed. So maybe you want to come back and pitch again. There's always opportunity to do that again and kind of hone in your presentation.
Hey, Jason, really quickly, do you have contacts at Meijer, like in the buyer department? Okay.
Some initial. I mean, I'm always happy to network with more, but yeah, we've got a few through Dominic's contacts. Another Jack Daniels contact of ours works directly with Meijer, so we've got them. But
okay.
I'm always happy to network more. So yeah.
All right, I'll track down some names for you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, David. Yeah, so if no other questions, we can always, you can always find me on email as well. I think our platform allows easy accessibility to the coaches. So let us know if we can be of any assistance. Hopefully this was helpful to kind of see not only the background of just a product or the business of that product being built, but some of the struggles and successes that I've had prior to this business. I think that goes and parlays into this particular company and how we were able to launch this, because without those failures and the other successes, maybe this launch wouldn't have been as successful as it is. So.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate perseverance, Jason, is to keep on calling people and having to have that, coronavirus talk, I'm sure, with every phone call and say, we're still pushing forward. It's really been inspiring to have you share this with us today. I'm going to ask our audience to come back next week. We are going to have another 9 o'clock meeting. Jason comes to almost all of the meetings. So if you want to ask other questions about this Craze presentation at the end of that meeting, or even in the beginning when we're just queuing up, I'm sure you'll be available for that, right, Jason?
Of course. Yeah, Mark Masters is on next week. So I'm looking forward to his presentation and look forward to hopefully seeing all of you guys next week.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying a little later. We appreciate that. Make sure we're saving that chat, Doug. And Doug is going to put this up on our YouTube channel and share it out there. So if you want to try out Craze, go to the Craze website. You can order it, or you can go pick it up at some of those liquor stores. I'm actually pretty excited. I think one of the things that's really unique is that like vintage, certain people drink limoncello, and that it can be modern and updated and have that Detroit twist like you're marketing it with. I really like that. What did I want to mention about that Craze twist? I can't remember. Anyway. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Thanks,
thank-
great job.
Jason.
Have a
Thank you.
great day.